So, good evening, all, once again, and welcome everyone. My name is Malloy, and my uh, I set up Beyond Red Ocean Consulting about 7 years back, post my 23, 24 years in corporate world. And the objective that we had when we set up Beyond Red Ocean Consulting was how do we transform people? Because people has been very close to our heart. And while doing that, I came across multiple people, one of them being Professor Asha, who first invited me through an ex-colleague of mine, in fact. And I was praying that he would be in this room, uh, Mr. Anant Rajadne, who invited me for a session in Somaya. And that's how we got connected. And it's been about 6, 7 years, 8 years that we have been connected to each other.
Right.
Right. So as Beyond Red Ocean Consulting, we are looking at people, whether it is business owners or it's as individuals. But today it's not our story. It is the story of people who have not only transformed themselves, but are strong motivators for society. 10 days back, I envisaged during my life coaching programs, I used to see a lot of people were getting despondent. And I reached out to 5, 6 close individuals who I know will relate to this. And Professor Asha was one of them, and she readily agreed. And touch wood, the power of this series has been so high and with so much of experiences, and nothing due to me, but only the 4 individuals who've already come and the 5th one who's here, that I have 6 more requests to extend this series. And we're going to continue till next Saturday, every evening at the same time. But like I said, it's not our story. It's not my story. It's not Beyond Red Ocean Consulting story. It is not Action Coach story. It is the story of a transformer who has transformed not only herself, but thousands of people, who have touched the hearts of thousands of people. So once again, a warm welcome to you, Professor Asha. And my first question to you is, tell us something about your journey, your childhood. Where did you grow up? How did you become what you became today?
I think every stage of life has shaped me to what I am today. It started with my childhood in a boarding school. At the age of 5, I joined a boarding school in Missouri, Oak Grove School. It was one of those elite boarding schools. I think straight out of an Enid Blyton book, with those tall stone structures, wooden roofs, and those brass knobs. So 12 years of staying away from your parents, but it shaped my overall
Dr. Asha, we are losing you. We have lost you again. So while we wait for Dr. Asha to re-log in, we unfortunately have had to fast track our digitization while the infrastructure is not yet ready. While she logs in, the background of what we are doing today. 10 days back, like I said, we thought that we would do this program. And we did not know the first program that we did on this Monday, which was the 16th, 15th of. Yes, Professor Asha, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes, so I was talking about my childhood in a boarding school and how it shaped me and what I learned basically from there. It was about building resilience. So there was, like I said, there was a lot of exposure to activities apart from your academics. And I remember this one incident in the eighth standard. I was a very studious girl, and there was this camp which was organized by the school, and I joined that, and it was a lot of this everybody a lot of comments like, what is the studious girl doing here, why is she here? But I then went on to become, I did my entire coaching, the athletics coaching, and but at the end of that day, the coaching camp, the last day of the coaching camp was the final race, where I beat the fastest girl in school, and she happened to be the school prefect. But that got me into a lot of trouble. There was a lot of bullying, but thankfully the teacher stepped in, and the things got sorted out. But that didn't stop me. I went on practicing, and when the final sports day happened, I not only won the championship, I also broke 3 records. So
Oh,
I think
amazing.
that is learning, the resilience that you build up through all difficulties that one goes through.
Mhm.
So that was about the childhood.
How did you land
Uh,
up in? How did you land up in this in Missouri? You said, right?
yes.
How did you land
So
up in Missouri?
I think it's thanks to my parents who were quite forward thinking in terms of educating their children.
Mhm.
My father was posted in Assam, and
Okay.
he had a transferable job. It was difficult to get good schools everywhere that he was transferred to.
Hmm.
And that's how I think my parents had decided that we want the best of education for our children,
Mhm.
and they put us in a boarding school. Here we are three siblings. I have two siblings. We are three of us, and all three in a boarding school. And I think at that point of time in the 70s, educating girls in a boarding, I
Correct.
think my parents were very forward thinking, and I
Hmm.
was fortunate to have this kind of education.
Amazing story. Because I remember when my father used to threaten me that either you behave or I'll send you to Panchgadi. It was the worst
Yeah.
nightmare that a child could have at that stage. Today, I think children are more comfortable staying out of the house. But at that point in time, to go out and stay alone without your parents must have been tough, right?
It was tough, but it was never, presented to us as if it was a punishment.
Mhm.
So we were always told that, see, this is the best we can do for you, and this is the best we are giving you. So we always appreciated it
And at what age was this? At what age did you land up in the boarding school?
at the age of 5,
Age of 5.
and I was there for 12 years.
And you're there for 12 years. Wow. So,
Yes.
so what do you call yourself? Ahmedabadi, Assamese, or a person from Missouri?
I think I'm an Indian citizen first, and then a global because my family finally went on to settle in Australia.
Who went to Australia? Dr. Asha, there's a connectivity challenge. We're not able to hear you very clearly.
Citizen first, and then a global. Okay.
Dr. Asha, is there a way that you can have another connectivity? Because this connectivity seems to be very poor.
Just give me 1 minute, please.
Yes, yes. Praveen, good to see you. So I was telling this. I was sharing this story about 10 days back when we envisaged this. We did not know that on 15th, when we start this program, we would be encountered with an amazing, with a, not an amazing, amazing is, I'm so sorry, it's a wrong choice of word. Uh, it would be such a, uh, it would be the first, one of the first programs which would be after and very tragic event. We don't know the cause of the tragic event. We don't know. But from whatever we hear, it has got to do a lot with mental health. It has a lot to do with ability or inability to accept rejection. And
Can you
today,
hear
the,
me now?
yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Is it better? I hope.
Much better.
Sorry for the glitches.
No, so I was telling when you were not, I was telling people, all the participants, that we had to fast forward the digitization 10 years because of the because of the COVID. But we are
Yeah.
but we are not ready as an infrastructure to support COVID. Okay, so talking about your story, forget about the digitization piece. So you spent 12 years, and you were mentioning about bullying. I heard this word bullying couple of
Yes.
times from you, right?
Just once. Yes. So that is a part of growing up in a boarding school.
How did you handle this bullying?
Luckily, I was fortunate enough because this went up to the teachers and they stepped in,
Hmm.
and that was taken care of. There was counseling for uh, the other girls, and that's how I was saved.
You were saved. And
Yes.
okay, on a slightly lighter note, because you faced bullying, did you bully somebody else?
No, I didn't, because
You,
this is what when it came to my when it came to the notice of my parents, they were
mhm.
very clear. They said, this is what you've gone through. You don't want the others to go through the same.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's move forward. Let's fast track slightly. So
Yes.
so you did your 12 years in Missouri,
Yes.
staying away from parents most of the time, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? You and your three siblings. Then what happened after Missouri? What happened?
After my school, yes, then my parents said enough of boarding life, come back. And
Uh-huh.
by the time my father had a job in uh, Guwahati, so that's where I did my graduation, and then appeared for the entrance exam to the MBA course. I got through my MBA,
Easy?
and
Was it so easy appearing for an MBA program? I'm
no,
sure
it
your life
was.
your life is not so simple as you put it.
It wasn't that easy because I remember Guwahati University and the Department of Business Management was the only recognized. Uh, I mean, the program was the only recognized program that we had in the entire of Northeast states,
Hmm.
and there were competitors from across 7 states, and there were, I think, just 35 seats.
Hmm. No,
So it was a very
no,
coveted.
one thing is very sure, that you will always manage external competition, right? I'm talking about the internal piece. How did you have to convince your father, or he was ready to allow the daughter to go and do an MBA? And this must be
In
what,
fact,
80s, early 80s,
yes, early 80s.
early 80s.
In fact, my father was the one who supported me the most.
Okay, okay.
And he said that, yes, of course, there was a lot of pressure because graduation, and people thought it's enough now, time to get married. At that point of time, it was very rarely heard of, girls going in for higher education and then MBA programs. I was the first girl in the family to do my MBA.
In your in the full family,
Entire
till
clan.
till then
So then, yes. And I think we were the first or the second batch we had girls.
in Guwahati
Otherwise,
University.
it was considered to be a domain of boys.
Uh-huh. But still a men's world then, I guess.
It was.
It was. Yeah. Okay, you did your MBA. Why did you do your MBA?
Why did I do my
Yeah.
MBA? Was
Yeah.
um,
You could have done
because at
multiple other things. You could have become a doctor. You could have become an engineer. You could have become a chartered accountant. Why MBA?
so at that point of time, I think that was one of the most coveted courses or programs, and I was looking at studying management. It was a very new kind of a course,
Hmm.
and there was competition, and it was very coveted
Okay.
to get into a management program.
Okay.
So that's how I took up the challenge and you know prepared and cracked the exam
Hmm.
and got through.
And got through. That you will get through. So
Yes.
I'm not. I think we should not even be talking about why not getting through. So uh,
No, it was tough.
I'm no that you are. I think you are tougher than anybody else on planet. So we are not even discussing
I
that,
think
Dr. Bhatia.
circumstances make you tough. Yes.
Uh, so you did your MBA. Post that, what happened?
Suppose the MBA, then uh, I worked with IDPI, and then it was time to get
IDPI.
married.
IDPI.
Yes.
So you went in. You were a
Yes.
banker.
Yes. Started off as a banker,
Uh-huh. And then
and then got yeah. Then the wedding happened, and it was a very patriarchal family, and it was like, why work? And I had to tell them it is so there's everything. There's money, there are luxuries, everything. Why do you want to still work?
okay,
And I
you're
had to
in.
tell
You
them,
mean you're in at your in-laws' side after post
yes,
marriage? Yeah.
yes.
Ah.
So uh, I think gradually they got to understand my point of view. And first, I think after that, yeah, there was this phase of life which was quite challenging when a difficult pregnancy. I almost lost my son, and my father passed away during those days in a tragic road accident. So those were very difficult times. And then NAB happened, the National Association for the Blind
No,
India.
no, before no
It was
NAB I
unattended
know, Doctor. That NAB I know is a very touchy subject. It's very close to your heart. But I want to go
yeah,
back. I want to go back to the uh, post marriage, right?
yes.
How did you manage to convince people that a educated woman, educated lady, qualified lady should also go out and work? So what was the methodology? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Because this is, you can hear me, doctor?
Yes, I can. I can.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Because today I see in many families, this is becoming a flashpoint for separation, for family splitting. And today we realize in the COVID era, I think there are a lot of us who have realized that what is the benefit of people staying together and building a supporting ecosystem.
Yes.
Otherwise, my wife, who's a school teacher, we wouldn't have been able to work the way we have if my mother was
Yeah.
not around. Right?
Yeah.
How did you manage this? Because today people get into fights, people get into they start treating each other as adversaries rather than as looking at that viewpoint together. So what was the methodology you adopted?
So one was that I made sure that everything was right at home. I was doing my duties, putting everything in place, and it was a challenging thing to do because it was like being that perfect housewife and again going and being that perfect professional. But I have to tell them that, see, I can manage both.
Hmm.
And over the time, I think they realized it, and things just became normal.
So was it a mindset issue of people that a
Yes,
lady
it
should not
was.
work?
Yes, it is.
It is a mindset issue.
Yes. I think they also, at that time, they were worried about how would the house be taken care of? How will you maintain that balance?
Hmm.
And so over the time with my work uh, and the way I could take care of the house, I think they came around.
So before we get into NAB, I'm putting you into a situation where a young girl comes to you for advice, an advice of the same situation that you had encountered so many years back.
Yes.
What how would you counsel her? What would you tell her? Because this is a very touchy subject for me, because I see a lot of families breaking apart because of this issue even today.
I think they need to have a discussion, a dialogue at home, and to tell everyone it's not only the money, it's also about the growth of an individual. It's about how important it is for a woman to reach out. It The kind of exposure that she gets at the workplace, it helps her grow.
Mhm,
And that helps her to manage her family better, things at home, what she's bringing,
mhm,
the knowledge that she's bringing back home
mhm.
helps everyone. It
Okay.
helps a family to grow, not only in terms of the economic, but
Mm,
also in terms of everything else.
okay. So that this was during IDBI.
Yes.
This was during IDBI. Then apparently NAB happened.
Yes.
Tell us about the NAB story, because you briefly told me about the story once in a while, some snippets. But I want to hear that entire story of NAB, and I'm sure a lot of people want to hear this story of NAB.
Yeah, sure. So there was my birthday. On my birthday, I thought of celebrating this at NAB. And I went with my birthday cake and a lot of goodies, and I thought I would be making people happy. And I was this person was giving out things, and that's the
Sorry,
impression.
sorry, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. This was just a birthday celebration that you went to NAB for?
Yes, initially, yes, the first
Okay,
time,
okay, okay,
but
okay,
that was the turning point
okay. Let's hear the story.
completely. I i was so humbled by the
Mhm,
kind of the celebrations that we had that day. I learned so much about people who don't have everything and are still happy, and they can still give so much. So it was about sharing, it was about uh, music, it was dancing, it was sharing jokes. uh, I came back a very, very different person. And that day I realized I had found my calling. And I came back and I told my family that this is where I want to be. And there was 11 years of honorary service at NAB. I was looking after the education, the training programs, the employment at the Department of Rehabilitation, working with the beneficiaries. And it was fascinating to see what education could do. The visually challenged, and I was working with the adults. So there
visually
were
challenged
some,
adults.
yes. So
Okay.
there were some who were not blind by birth. They may have lost their eyesight later on due to an accident or due to a disease, and it was so difficult for them to cope up with all this. The It was difficult for the family because they didn't know how to handle them.
Mm,
Okay, and so I also realized how important it is for vocational training to develop skills. And 11 years, and then during the course of time, then they said, why not? Uh, there was a position vacant, and they asked me to take over as the head of the department and the deputy director. I thought for a while, and I took this up because I realized over the years that you have to be in the system. Sometimes you have to be in the system to change the system.
Correct.
And that's how I took up this position. And then I started handling two departments. One was working with the beneficiaries in the Department of Rehabilitation, and the other was working at the Department of Advocacy, where we were dealing with policy making with the government, the central, the state government, all these things. And that's how it is.
So NAB happened, you said honorary initially. So was it along with ITPI or
Yes.
was it a full-fledged NAB kind of thing?
No, it was a full-fledged nap.
So you gave up a job and took up an honorary position.
Yes,
That was the
I
transformation
did.
of that birthday.
Yes, it was.
Because I
And
have, yeah, sorry, please carry
no, I'm saying my luckily my family supported me.
on. No, I was associated with an organization in the past which was working very closely in the area of blindness. Right?
Yes, and
And we have seen ourselves how people are extremely self self-respecting. They have very high self-esteem. They may be
yes,
blind, but
yes,
they don't consider themselves uh, incompetent or any way lower, inferior than somebody else.
true.
But there is also a group of people who feel left out. How you have some stories about how did you impact individuals' lives? Some stories, some snippets, I'm sure, which is being etched in your memory.
I have many.
So let's hear a couple.
So
Let's hear a couple.
one of these, I remember we had got uh, this boy who was an orphan, and he was blind. And someone brought him to the institute, saying that his parents have passed away
Mhm,
and he has nowhere to go. So he was at the rehabilitation center, and he went on to do his 10th and appear for his board exams, and he went on to do some courses and higher education. And then I met him once after a long time at one of the malls, and he came back and he told me he heard, I don't, somehow he recognized my voice, and he said, "Ma'am, do you recognize me?" And I was surprised to see this boy who had, and he told me, of course, he was like, when I'm telling you, he was an orphan, and he had nowhere to go. This boy had completely changed. He had started working. He says, "I have got my sister married, and this year I'm going out for a holiday, and I'm also taking a friend along." So that is the kind of transformation. And then I also remember this the physiotherapy program that we were doing for the visually challenged. I, as a team, I had a very good team. My staff at the National Association for the Blind. I think kudos to all of them who are doing this selfless service. So I would always tell them that we have to give the best to our beneficiaries. We have to provide them with the best of education, with best of everything. Whatever we can give to our children, we should be able to give to them. But at the same time, I would also tell the students that you have to give your best.
mhm,
If you have to go out into the job market,
mhm.
you will be competing with the others. So you have to be better than the best. Grammatically, this may not be correct, but still, I'm saying
But that's
this.
how it is. That's how it is.
That's how tough it is.
Mm,
And though we were doing this program, but it was very difficult to get employment for them.
mm.
And I remember one of our candidates got a job with the National Burn Center, which is at Airoli.
Yeah.
And during one of the programs, I was invited there, and I met the dean, Dr. Keswani, and I went up to and I spoke to him and I thanked him, for taking one of our candidates. And he said, "You don't have to thank me, Mrs. Bhatia, because that was not charity. I took the candidate because of her competency." And I think that was the biggest certificate that we could have
Biggest
ever got.
compliment that you could ever get in life.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yes. No, the reason I'm prodding you on these lab stories, Dr. Bhatia, is, and I've never called you Dr. Bhatia. I've always called you Professor Asha.
You
So
can call me.
no, I'll call you Professor Asha. I've never called you Dr. Bhatia in my life. Professor Asha, the reason I'm prodding you into these kind of stories is in today's, look at it, today's context. There are many of us, yes, we have had probably job cuts, salary cuts, a lot of things have happened. But still, we've all houses, a roof over our on our head, food to eat, clothes to wear, electricity to enjoy. But there's this vast population which
Yes.
don't even have that. And they are still trying to make a livelihood of whatever they have. And many of us who have a lot, may not have everything what we had in February or January or February, but we still have a lot. We are the ones cribbing.
Yes.
Why do you think this is how? What is the solution to this? What is going wrong with society?
Society is always wanting more and more. We're never happy with what we have. Contentment. I just came across this very nice quote, of Oprah Winfrey.
Mhm.
And she says, "Be thankful for what you have. You will end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never ever have enough."
Very powerful statement. Because
I
I
think
think,
that's
yeah, that's extremely powerful. But what, at least what I am seeing, and a lot of other people are seeing, and I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing, that the dissatisfaction level of not having is far higher than the satisfaction of what we have,
yes.
right? And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday on the show, and she said that probably at some point in time, it is also our society per se, which is giving things easily to people, that people don't start, the kids especially. And I'm not
Yes.
blaming the kids at all. The kids have got things so easily that the value has come down.
True.
Do you see
And
these kind of situations around you?
yes, I do. And that is the reason, I would always take my son along with me uh, many a times on my visits to NAB.
Yeah.
And he would mix around with, and he would make friends. And somehow he came out to be a more human,
Yeah,
with,
more.
uh, yeah, a good human being with values.
Mm,
This was also, I think, the magnitude of the problem is, I realized when once I'd been to Singapore.
mhm.
I was invited to Singapore to make a presentation on rehabilitation through education,
Oh,
through higher
interesting.
education.
Okay.
And we were talking about, I was talking about all the programs that we do and what are we doing to, make the visually challenged self-sustaining and competent and
Mm,
all those things. And someone from the audience, asked me, so uh, what is the number of beneficiaries that you reach out to?
mhm,
So that meant, what is the number of the visually challenged people you have in India?
mm.
Because as a national organization, we are reaching out across states.
Correct.
So it was almost around 12 millions.
Mm.
And she said, okay, the population, it is almost 20 times the population of Singapore.
Singapore. Correct.
That is
Correct.
the magnitude
Magnitude
of
of
the
the
problem.
problem.
Yes. And that is when you're working in organizations like these, this is the kind of impact you can make.
mm,
The possibilities are huge.
mm.
I think I was blessed to be associated during my career with an organization like the National Association for the Blind.
Yeah, I think all of us are blessed who have had that opportunity to work for a social cause. And
Yes,
I consider myself blessed of having worked for an organization which was in that eye care space for about 9 odd years and heading that organization. Okay, so let's carry on. Again, your journey. From NAB, how did you, so you're an MBA who was a banker and then got into social development and then Sumaya happened?
yes. So I think those are those pivoting points in life.
Okay, so how did Sumaya happen? Tell us the how.
So
You're a deputy director at NAB at that point in time, I guess.
yes, I
Ah,
was. And then I thought I was into academics and wanted to study further.
hmm,
I was thinking of doing my doctorate,
okay.
and somehow you reach that stage where you think that what next.
Mhm,
I think at NAV, whatever I had set out to do, I had achieved it in some way. All the goals that I had set for myself.
mhm,
And then there was a point. I thought there was a point to move on,
mhm,
and it was best to join an academic institute, and that's when Sumaya happened, and I got a job with Sumaya, KJ Sumaya Institute of Management Studies.
mhm,
Um, it wasn't easy, frankly,
mhm,
because it was a lot of unlearning and then relearning. And I enrolled for my PhD. Those were also very difficult days because I was teaching new subjects and I was also doing my doctorate. I enrolled for this doctoral program. So my day would start at around 5 o'clock. I would get up in the morning and prepare for my lectures, then the breakfast and the whole day at work, and come back and dinner time. And post dinner, I would sit and work on my thesis. So I was putting in almost 14 to 16 hours a day. And it was challenging because at home, everything had to be perfect. And at work, it required a lot of effort. So it was difficult to maintain that balance, but somehow I did, and I'm happy about it.
so who said success comes easy?
It never
Whoever
does.
said, whoever said that success is easy, I think is living in that castle, which is no connection with reality.
And also at the Soma Institute of Management, the Soma family as such is very socially inclined.
Yeah.
We believe in giving back to society. And I was fortunate enough to be in charge of the Enactus Somaya Social Cell. Enactus is an international organization, and they have this very nice tagline, about uh, a head for business and a heart for the world. And that was very, it was in sync with what I thought of, what I believed in. And I worked with the students, we worked on social entrepreneurship projects.
Mhm,
It was a great learning, it was a great journey.
mhm, mhm,
Working with the students, guiding them, and creating that impact for the beneficiaries in terms of livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods.
mhm.
It was also telling the students, whatever they learn in class, how do you put it to
To
practice?
practice. Mm.
So
No,
that
no,
was,
how can I forget that in Actus? Because that's where I was first invited to be one of those uh, for a panel discussion by you, if you remember, where Professor Sen Gupta was the person who was moderating that conversation.
yes, yes, I do remember.
Yeah, so that was the first. first physical encounter with you. But Doctor, you have had journeys, and I'm not coming back. I'm not yet touched the present. I know we have moved on from KJ Somaya after a distinguished career with KJ Somaya, and it's a fantastic institution, and
Yes.
it does so much for society, both in terms of the education, healthcare, and the social development.
Right.
What is your biggest learning through this journey of yours? Could be about 20, 25 years, I guess. What's the biggest learning from society, from this journey that you have had? Missouri to Guwahati, Guwahati to where was IDBI? Which city?
Mumbai.
Acha, IDBI
Mumbai.
Mumbai, IDBI Mumbai, then NAB Mumbai, then KJ Somaya Mumbai, marriage, difficult pregnancy, losing the father and having the difficult pregnancy around the same time. What's the biggest message that you would want to give to the youth of today who are complaining and who are saying that in COVID, my career has gone for a toss, my education has gone for a toss. I was supposed to be studying in Harvard, but Harvard tells me you do online courses from Mumbai. The organization where I was getting an internship, that organization is no longer willing to take me now. They're saying come after 6 months. What would you tell these people?
I think we're going through very difficult times. We have to agree to that. And we don't know what the future holds. But there is no magic wand to it that everything will be okay. I can't say that. Um, every time, we have these meetings in the new institute that I've joined,
Mhm.
and the CEO, Mr. Tarun Anand, always says something which I want to quote here. He says that organizations which survive in this pandemic times are the ones which will be alert, agile, and adaptive.
Mhm.
I think for the youth, they are the future workforce of these organizations. They have to be alert,
Mhm.
agile, and adaptive to the situation. What is it in your hands is what you need to do. You can take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Reach out to your friends, your family, and build that resilience. I think that resilience is very, very important. It helps you tide over these difficult times. This is what I have seen in my life. I think every stage of life, like I said, taught me different things: resilience, empathy, compassion, gratitude. Gratitude for whatever you have is so important. So I think all these things are really important now at this point of time.
I think you have touched four, five key things, and but the one thing that really touches me is gratitude, because we are we are not thanking neither the universe nor the people around us enough for what we are today. Now, I've also been a faculty with multiple B schools, and again,
Mhm.
I'm not getting into my journey, but I have my certain views, strong views about students per se, and I've sometimes shared them. I will have one question for you. Are the students upskilling themselves enough? Are the students, most of them, I'm sure, i'm, I'm not generalizing for 100%, I'm sure there is 10, 15, 20% who's doing it, but I'm talking about the vast majority. Are they spending enough time in looking after their intellectual health? Are they spending enough time in upskilling in what the world requires from them in the future?
I think as of now, this is a vast opportunity for them to upskill, given the technology and the fact that you don't have to go out and attend programs, attend workshops. You have everything at the click of a button.
Mm,
So they should be doing that.
Now my
And
question,
I've
no, 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 doctor, no, I want you to take a stance today. I want you to take a stance. Forget COVID, forget no COVID. Are the students upskilling themselves enough?
it's I cannot generalize that
No, not
because
generalized,
I'm
but not generalized, but majority.
majority of them are.
Majority of them are. Okay.
Majority of them are.
Hmm.
Because I'm still in touch with a lot of my students from the Soma Institute of Management. They come back and they tell me, ma'am, these are the courses that I've done. This is the program that I've joined. This is the mentoring that I'm doing. So it means that they are at it.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I
No,
think yes, they are aware,
so we can have a
and we
debate
will
on that,
always have those.
the sideliners.
Yes, we can. I think this will go on and on.
No, we can have this debate, but we'll not have this debate for today, maybe some other time. Because my firm belief, and I'm not getting into whether they're upskilling or not upskilling, and this is something that I mentioned in March when I did my first webinar for the youth and also subsequently for business owners. I said your success in life will depend on how you're going to spend the next 10 weeks of your life. You have so much
Absolutely.
opportunity to upskill. So either you decide whether you're going to be in front of the Netflix on the Amazon Primes or the Hotstars, or are you going to spend certain amount of that time in upskilling yourself and learning newer things?
True.
So, so that
So that's
was
what I said. The opportunities are there.
opportunities are huge. Opportunities
Ample
are
opportunity, yes.
ample opportunities. So how did this current, okay, before we get into the current assignment, you were also very actively involved in CSR
Yes.
apart from your
So
NAB.
apart from my NAB, yes, and at the KJ Soma Institute of Management, we started the CSR program.
Hmm,
And in fact, I launched a course in CSR,
hmm,
corporate social responsibility, which was very well appreciated. And it was surprising because looking at, you have this impression about a management institute, the students will be only interested in business, in courses with business backgrounds, but here
hmm,
was a course that, a subject that was launched, and people were ready to take it up. So and then we also did some CS when this the new Companies Act was launched and
yeah,
CSR became mandatory.
yeah.
That was the time we did a lot of training programs for corporates
Hmm.
on CSR.
Okay.
So yes,
So that has been
and
part of your system looks like for a long time. Yep.
yes, that's my calling. I told
That's the
you.
calling, that the NAB calling.
Yes, NAB, and it moved on to social entrepreneurship and CSR. And we work with a lot of organizations. We are doing projects which are being funded by corporates
Okay.
in the CSR fund.
So the true CSR, the implementation of the CSR programs.
Right.
Okay. Then what happened next? Now you're in a new place and you apparently haven't even physically joined that place because of the
Yes,
COVID. Because of the COVID piece.
because of the COVID. Yes.
Hmm.
So new place, new challenges,
What was the
new
calling?
beginning.
What was the calling?
Calling, I think somewhere it happens over time.
Hmm.
During my research, during my doctoral program, I had this chance, I had this opportunity to go to the University of St. Gallen's for a research program. And that changed my entire concept about research.
Okay.
It got me really interested in research. And I did my workshop on mixed methods research. When I'd gone from India, because I was going to a program where there were participants from 50 countries across the world. And I was really worried because I was not a doctorate, and I was just into this PhD program. And I really worked hard
Mhm.
I did a lot of homework before going there, and the program went off. It wasn't that tough, and that is when I realized, and it was very interesting. And at the end of it, the best thing was uh, our Professor Burke Johnson.
Mhm.
You know, he said, he introduced me and he said, "She's been my best student." I think that was an amazing boost of confidence for me. And that's how I got interested in research, and then I received a lot of research grants for projects, which we did with my other faculty colleagues. And we went on to write research papers on that, which got published. And that's how the research journey began. And I also got selected for the NACTUS Global Faculty Research Network.
Tell us more.
So from when I joined Somaya, I had no idea of research. When I quit Somaya, I was on a global faculty research network, a forum, a global forum. So that's how the research journey,
So you're
culminated.
you're one amongst how many people from India?
I'm the only one from India, the only one from Asia.
Only one from Asia.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing.
So I'll be representing Asia.
Yeah,
And so we
I
have
understand.
15 members on a board.
Amazing story. So somebody who had no knowledge about research in what?
Yes.
How many years? 9 years in Somaya, KJ Somaya.
Yes, 9 years.
9 years. In that 9 years, you actually transformed yourself into a researcher, so that you're representing Asia in a global forum. and it
Yes.
is and it is not an arbitrary selection method. I'm sure there is a in-depth selection process.
Yes. There are many steps to that selection process, and finally, it selected candidates from across the globe to represent different continents.
Yeah, it is not the Filmfare Awards which you can buy, right?
No
this is
way.
this is something that you have to really work hard for. Okay, doctor, we are running out of time. We have about 7 minutes to go. And before we open up this room for people, I have a couple of questions already on the Facebook. Before we open up this room for anybody who wants to say something about you or ask any question, my final two questions to you, Doc. Everyone who has come in the last 4 days, including you today, are all public figures. And I don't mean politicians, and I'm not denoting them, because I have nothing against them, but you're not, right? You're public figures. You have to meet a lot of people, in your case students, on a day-to-day basis, especially when you're in Somaya. And now that after you physically join the new place, you'll be meeting them. How do you manage emotions? Because our emotions can go through different levels, right? We may have a bad day, we may have a bad health, somebody in our family may not be well, we may have just a simple tiff in the house. How do you manage your emotions when you go and meet these people, so that they don't have an inkling about what's happening with your emotion levels?
I think you learn to manage them over time and through your experiences. And for me, I think meditation, yoga, spirituality, all these things have helped me to grow internally, intrinsically.
Okay,
That would be my take on this.
that is your take. How do you de-stress yourself? Because all,
Music is
all
my,
my people have told me music, so you don't tell me music now.
I have to tell you music
You have to
because
tell
it
me.
is the biggest stressor for me.
Uh-huh.
And I play 6 instruments. I am
Okay,
a trained flute,
are you a human being? I'm
very,
having
very.
my serious doubts. You
So,
play 6 instruments.
yes. And I have some interesting stories about that
Yeah,
too.
please
It will
carry
just
on.
give.
No, no, we'll extend the time. No problems. I want to hear your stories. You're such an inspiration.
So I play because I'm a trained classical singer. I play the harmonium, the
Hmm.
tanpura, something about the tabla, and the casio, and
Hmm.
the guitar,
Hmm.
and also the mouth organ. So there's an interesting story about how harmonica happened.
Okay.
We as a child we'd come home for holidays, and we'd gone to Bhutan. My parents had taken us to Phunchling, and there my father wanted to buy us gifts and said, "What would you like to have?" So I noticed this harmonica in this shop, and I said, "I want that."
Mm.
And there was this auntie, she said, "ये ये तो लड़कियों का इंस्ट्रूमेंट नहीं है, लड़कियां नहीं बजाती." And so I was quite dejected. I came out of the shop. I was about to leave when my father called me back, and he said, "You really want this?" I said, "Yes." And he said that, "But you don't know how to play." So I said, "मैं सीख जाऊंगी." So he went back and he bought that for me. That gave me so much of inspiration. I think this thing about the gender bias, it broke that for me. It gave me the confidence that my father has confidence in me. And I came back and I thought, I want to do something for him. I actually learned that instrument, and I went on. Every day I devoted, I think, half an hour, 1 hour every day to this. And I went on to play many, I mean, film songs. And if my friends from the MBA days will remember, we did an orchestra, where we played an Anand Shankar piece. It was a classical piece, and I played my piece on the mouth organ. And I was invited by this troupe of Mr. Bhupen Hazarika to come and join them and play some songs. And then my father said, "Okay, that's enough now. you better, you do want to take this up as a profession?" I said, "No, no, not at all." And got back to my MBA. So that's how the musical journey has been.
Amazing. You're an amazing lady. I've known you for what, 9, 10 years, and I didn't know even 5% of what you told me today. Amazing, amazing person. Amazing. Okay. My last question, Doc. Forget the new institute that you have joined. But that's it, right? What next for Professor Asha Bhatia? What is that next dream that she's seeing? But it could be anything. Could be anything. And I'm sure your dream has no correlation with money. That I think I can assume.
Now, I've reached a point, I think, where I don't need to prove uh, myself to anyone. I I want to work for. I think it's more to do with giving back to society. That's what is my dream now.
Okay, one side question, and this just struck me now. After having such long tenures, you had about what, 9, 10 years with NAB or 11 years with NAB,
14 years.
14 years with NAB. Post that 14 years, about 9 years with KJ Somaya.
Right.
That's about 23 years plus the other assignments that you're 24, 25 years of experience. Now you're getting into a new organization. And we
Right.
all know, we have all seen that, I know you know that there will be people who will be bitching. Let's use that phrase, right? What would you recommend to the generation, others? You may manage it in a way you may disregard. What would you tell the youth who take up new assignments and they also have to go through this process of of hearing those things said behind their back? What would you tell them? What's your one piece of advice for them?
These things will happen, but you need to stay focused. need to stay focused on your work, need to grow, and I think the rest takes care of it on itself, by itself,
Hmm.
because keep going.
No, my question is slightly, do you try to prove yourself more because people are saying something behind you, or you continue to do what you have to do, ignoring them?
I continue to do what I have to do. I don't bother about what people are saying,
Hmm.
because I think I enjoy my work, and that is the most important thing. Stay focused, stay grounded, don't bother about what the people are saying. Let them do their bit, you do your bit. You do your work, you concentrate. And the more you stay focused, I think the rest of it falls in place.
How much is money important to you?
Money is important, but not the most important thing.
So, would you chase money ahead of a great career, or would you chase a great career ahead of money?
I've always uh, taken an unconventional route.
Hmm.
It's always been a career ahead of money. I remember during my days at NAB, if I was to compare myself with my other, uh, students, my batchmates at MBA, during my MBA days, they were way ahead. But that didn't stop me from doing what I was doing. I gained what I wanted to gain: my inner peace, my values, my recognition. All that came, even though I didn't chase money. And I think success comes to those who don't run after it.
Oh, fantastic. I say slightly differently to the youth, that when you're beginning your career, don't chase money, chase good work. Money will
Yes,
at some point in time automatically come to you. But the
very
moment
true.
moment you start chasing money, money just goes away from you. You can never
Yeah.
you can never catch it. Right? My father used to be coming from a very staunch Bengali background and big Bengali families, right? My father used to tell me, chase Ma Saraswati, Ma Lakshmi will come. If you chase Ma
Follow.
Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati will go away from you. Doctor, thank you very much for all your views and all your. You have been such an inspiration. I have one comment here which is right in front of me, and I cannot move it away. The gentleman called Akshay Bhatia. I'm sure you know him,
Yes, I do.
and I really I want you to comment on this and tell him something. He says, "My life in front of you feels a waste. You are such an inspiration, ma'am." What would you tell him? He feels his life is a waste. I do not know how old he is, because you may know him. I don't know. But at whatever age, life can never be a waste.
Life can never be a waste. You can look at inspirations, you can get inspired by people, but you will always chart out your own life. Maybe that will be an inspiration for someone else.
Correct. That may be inspiration for somebody else. So if Akshay is listening to me, Akshay, never, you have Professor Bhatia, whom I'm sure you know very well, and she'll always be able to handhold you and guide you and do whatever it takes. But please believe life is never a waste. Every moment that you have lived is worth living. And have what she keeps on saying. I think she made it mention in a few times, gratitude for whatever you have had in life. Life can always be better. I'm sure life can always be better. Right. So, and I have Neha Chandwani saying you're so inspiring. Right. You're the epitome of sacrifice. Right. So Neha says this again. Don't know who the lady is, but I'm sure she knows you well, and I know you well. I know you much better than what I knew about it till about 4:30 today evening. I knew only 5% of the true Professor Asha Bhatia till about 4:30. Today I probably know about 70%. I'm sure there are other things within you that that we don't know. If anybody wants to say anything, the forum is open before we close off. But, and you can please unmute yourself or put on the chat box. I can see a couple of messages coming in to the chat box that you're such an inspiration, Dr. Bhatia. And most of it is that same word that keeps on coming, that you're such an inspiration. And you're
Thank
such,
you so much.
I see humility word being used multiple times again, that after having achieved so much, still such a humble lady who has no clue of what she has achieved. And many of us who have achieved probably 50% of what you have, we go about tom-tomming to the world about all that we have done. There's Shraddha who says you're such an inspiration and mentor. And I'm sure Shraddha, you have been mentoring Shraddha Dalvi. You have been doing that. Professor Bhatia, thank you so much for everything. I can only salute you and say thank you for coming onto this show and being such an inspiration. I hope people who have watched you real time today on Zoom or Facebook, or who will subsequently watch the recordings, takes 10% of the inspiration that you have given, and life will be a beautiful place for all of them. Thank you again, Professor
Thank you
Bhatia.
so much.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank
You take care of yourself. And thank you everyone for coming into and listening to us. Thank you so much.